going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Time Podcast. We're coming at you with a little bit of extra today, a little Game Time extra for you today, but we also have a reunion in sorts. If you scroll down far on the channel, you'll see something called From the Logo, and we've got my co-host from that podcast, Darrel's son, Darrin, in the building with us today. He's replacing Ramon. Ramon is the head coach over at George Washington. He is helping them get done with the last day of school. So we got a little filling guest today for Ramon. We got Darrin in the building today, and we are talking NBA playoffs. The conference finals have been really good up to this point when you look at the West and the East. So we're going to be breaking those down here today. But Darrin, first, I got to say welcome to the Game Time Pod. From the Logo was the blueprint, but it's kind of evolved now into the Game Time Podcast. It's good to have you on.
For sure. You know, the logo. Hey, the logo will always be the OG, but you know
it will.
Like, yeah, we had some good episodes there.
Shout out Gardner Minshew. That we'll never forget that clip. It should be a fun episode today. I'm very excited. This will be going out as the day we're recording it, and we are going to start with Minnesota and Oklahoma City. That is the series that we will start with first, and then we'll get into Pacers Knicks. Minnesota and Oklahoma City, right? So I've watched both games up to this point, and for me, what I kind of focused on in that first game, I think a big thing that affected that first game was Ant tweaking his ankle. Obviously, I think it played a role, and he didn't play well in that second half, the fourth quarter. He didn't get a single point to go in that fourth quarter. For me, when I watch both games, especially game two, Oklahoma City seems very set, right? They seem very calm, very composed. They kind of know what they want to do. And I'd say Minnesota felt the same way in game one. Julius Randle played well. Ant played well until the second half, especially that fourth quarter. But Oklahoma City looked so composed. They looked calm. They know what they want to do going out onto the floor. And you know, Darrell, you brought up a good point about Denver's championship DNA. I think Denver was the real test for Oklahoma City in this series. I think that's the series when Oklahoma City fans say it's kind of like Jordan's moment over Detroit, right? I feel like for them, you know, I think this was their moment that they needed to overcome to maybe get over this pedestal and win that championship this year. If, you know, this, like I said, I think I said it when the playoffs started. I'm like, this is OKC's championship to lose. And I think they're going to get it done. Maybe not in 4 games. I could definitely see it being a gentleman's sweep because I think Minnesota is going to at least grab 1 at home, or they could grab 2, because if you go back to last year's playoffs, Denver went up 2-0, and then Minnesota went up 2-0, and then Denver got 2, or it was the other way around. So I'm not counting Minnesota out just yet. They still have to go home, and they get 2 games at home. I just think Oklahoma City looks so set. They look so calm. And I think for Minnesota, the injury to Ant did not help. I think that was the big difference in game one. And then game two, it was just too little, too late. Oklahoma City went out on a run, and Minnesota could never get back into the ball game.
You know, to your point about, you know, Minnesota getting back in the ball game, I think if Minnesota had an opportunity to minimize their disadvantages, and those 2 disadvantages that I see right now are Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley. You know, Mike Conley on the defensive side, he's getting bullied a lot during the games, and Rudy Gobert is an offensive liability. And I think that's that difference. If you think about what Denver had versus Minnesota, they had a center who was absolutely a difference maker, right? Then they had a guard, you know, and our guy from Kentucky, you know, that he was playing ball. He was balling, right? So and he's tough on defense. Murray's not some 6'1", 180-pound, you know, point guard. He's thick, right? I think those are the 2 differences, in my opinion, that I've seen in the first 2 games, right? You know, and if I don't know what they're going to be able to do in Minnesota. I know the crowd is going to be wild and loud, and they'll have a lot of energy. I think they'll come out really strong in the first half. But I think unless Rudy Gobert, you know, I'm not saying he's got to be Shaq, but he's got to be able to get double-digit points. He's got to be somebody you have to guard at some point for them to be able to, I believe, to tie the series up while they're in Minnesota.
Darren, what's your thoughts so far?
To touch on that, I was kind of I looked at both games. I think you kind of hit on it. What you said about the first game when Ant injured his ankle. Um, to get on that, it looks to me like OKC. They look like they've been there before, right? I think I was talking to Pops about I don't know, them coming in to the series is like, any of those guys on that team been in the conference finals I'm trying to see how they cope with that. And I think that was the challenge. And I think they're living up to that challenge. Performing real well. Um, like I said, they like you said, they're composed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
They're ready. Like they've been
I,
there before. It
yeah,
almost looks like they've been there before.
exactly. It looks like like I said, it looks like they've been there before. I think coming into the game 3 and game 4 is going to be important for the Wolves to come out hot. I kind of expect them to come out hot. The crowd factor. I expect Ant to do his thing. I think a key factor is Julius too. Julius didn't play well game 2. I think that hurt them. They definitely needed his performance to get on, because I think, in my opinion, if he's not on, I think he's the X factor. I think if Julius isn't playing his best game,
Yeah.
then it throws off the whole team. Because if he's able to hit shots, and get bored and be aggressive, how we seen him in his past day in his prime. The Wolves, they can do great things. But
he can drive too. That's the other thing, to your point.
Yeah.
He can put the ball on the deck. He's not just a guy that's a spot up guy. He's thick, and he can get to the paint, and he can create havoc and create foul trouble for the defenders as well too.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for Minnesota, and you were talking about Gobert, kind of reminds me of obviously Minnesota all around is a better defensive team than what Gobert had in Utah, but it's kind of that same thing where they draw Gobert out of the paint to get their separation and get SGA that chance to drive in. Because I was telling my stepdad, I'm gonna call him by his name because he says I keep calling him stepdad. Jason.
Your mom said that too.
Jason. I told Jason, I was like, I think the big thing for SGA and this Thunder team, they're not a 3-point shooting team like most of the teams in the league. They take a lot of mid-range shots compared to other teams, and that's where they get their bread and butter. They're efficient because they take the mid-range shots. And obviously Shea does get to the free throw line a good amount, which is always going to help, and he hits those free throws. That's always a big thing. But when you draw Gobert out of the paint, you're drawing out a 3-time defensive player of the year. That's always going to benefit you. At times, Gobert's going to be a liability, but offensively, yeah, Gobert has to do better. And we know Gobert can do better. Go back to the Lakers series. Now, obviously, Jackson Hayes was their only center, but he played good in the Golden State series as well. He wasn't a main offensive contributor, but he did well enough for this team to win. You're the second highest paid guy on this roster. You got to play like it. Same thing with Julius Randle. Randle had 28 points in game 1. He had 6 in game 2. But like I said, I think Minnesota, it was just too little too late, because if you look at the other guys on this roster, Alexander Walker had 17, McDaniels had 22. So you had guys to kind of fill in since Randle and Gobert didn't play well, but you still need that extra contributing from your other top 2 guys in Gobert and Randle, because on the Oklahoma City side, their big 3 came to play. J-Dub had 26, Shea had 38, and Holmgren had 22. And on nights they don't perform, this is where we kind of talked about they've got the depth where if one of their players doesn't show up, they'll be fine. I think Minnesota's that same way too, but I don't know. It's not looking good for Minnesota, and I had them winning this series, by the way, in 6.
Here's what I'll say to that, right? So, you're right. Those other guys picked up the point slack in game 2, but those guys aren't drivers. They're not getting guys in foul trouble to get on the line to slow that pace down. Because OKC's got this pace they want to go at, right? They're not at I think them and the Pacers right there neck and neck in pace in the playoffs right at this point. So you give them an opportunity to slow down if in fact you get into the line. You can be that flexibility. Those guys are spot up shooters, right? With Randall, yes, he can spot up, but also putting that ball on the deck. And you got to get those guys, especially Williams. Williams is a big time help guy on the backside, right? And then you got Chad. You got Holmgren. Listen, the guy's 180 pounds, man. You got to pound him, right? You got to make him feel the pain a little bit, and it's not coming from a 6'4" defense unit zone, by the way.
Yeah, Gobert's got to be more aggressive. I think Gobert has to be more aggressive going against Holmgren. And Holmgren's a great player. We know this. But Gobert has to show up this series because Anthony Edwards has played well. Obviously, not scoring in that fourth quarter, it's not a good look for him. But I think the big stat that pops out to me from the last game they played in game 2, he had 30 points and 0 turnovers in that game 2. That's impressive against an Oklahoma City defense that is the best defense in the league. Statistically, Oklahoma City's the best defense in the league, and that's impressive. But like I said, it was too little too late for Minnesota. Now, I had Minnesota winning in 6. I will stay on that. Maybe it'll be 7 games because Minnesota still has to go back home. And when you look at, and I've given Edwards a lot of credit for how he's played in these playoffs. I think he's taken a leap in a lot of regards. But I think when you compare him to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Shai is just playing like he's been here before. There's just a different level right now. You've got Shai on this level, and you got Ant that wants to be on that level, but I think he's just a step beneath that. And that's not a bad thing because Shai's 26, Ant's 23. If anything, I think just shows Ant still has some room to grow, and look where he's already at because he took a leap from last year in the playoffs to this year. So if it isn't their way, I mean, you look at Ant's resume, already 2 Western Conference Finals appearances, and he's only 23 years old. We will be seeing the Timberwolves. This won't be the last time we see them for sure.
Definitely. And to that point, I had OKC in 7.
Okay.
When we had it at the beginning. I'm gonna stick with that. Now Minnesota can change my mind tomorrow night with a strong effort, and then backing that up, on Monday, right? I think they play Monday if I remember right.
Maybe Sunday.
Yeah. Pacers and Knicks play Sunday and Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's Saturday and Monday, maybe, because I think it's every other day. So with that said, I think they've got an opportunity, but it starts in game 3. If they don't win game 3, it's a chance.
It's over.
The Wolves start howling, and it may be, if not a sweep, a gentleman's sweep at worst.
Darren, what are your thoughts? Who did you have winning before the series started, and what are you thinking now?
I thought I had the Timberwolves winning the series. I thought a big thing was going to be experience, like I said. But I think OKC is showing me like, man, they're up for it. Shai is the MVP, and he's performing like it. I know a lot of people don't like how he's getting all those foul calls and things like that, but I mean, the guy, he gets to the free throw line, he gets to his spots, he can shoot. I mean, he's tough. So you gotta
makes a challenge. Makes a challenge. You're right.
Yeah.
I want to bring up this point. I think Richard Jefferson said it. It was a podcast clip that I saw, and he brought up the fouls to Shai, and Shai laughed it off, and he said, I think it was either 2 years ago or something like that. Shai said a couple of years ago I averaged 11 free throws per game, and no one said a word. Now I average 9 free throws a game, and it's made a big deal. It's like, if anything, it just shows people are caring about what I'm doing, and I don't remember the rest of it, but I think he does make a good point, because me and Darrell, we kind of talked about it briefly before we went on, but I think Shai makes a great point. He's taken less free throws than what he did a couple years ago, but now that the Thunder are competitive, I remember what he said. He said, now that I'm doing this to people's favorite teams and knocking them out of the playoffs, people feel some type of way about it. So I find it interesting, and it seems like Shai doesn't care. He loves the attention.
I think it's more eyes. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Because no one was paying attention to Oklahoma City 2 years ago,
Yep.
3 years ago. Let's be honest, right? So yeah, there's a level of truth to what he says, but also when you've got more eyes, you got more critiques, right?
Yep.
You got more people saying what's going on. So that's a part of it as well, too. So yeah, but again, I think Minnesota has to win game 3 for there to be even a slight chance. Because if not, it's either a sweep or worst case, a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, and I think OKC's coming in that game saying, "Hey, I think we're gonna give it all." I think OKC's coming in game 3 saying, "Hey, we're gonna give it our all tonight." Because if they know, I think they know if they win this game, oh yeah, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, you got to try to put the nail in the coffin when you're OKC. But I think Minnesota, like I said, I still am very confident in the Timberwolves. Obviously, game two was not the best showing for them, but you still have Ant putting up 30, right? He didn't score in that fourth quarter in game one. I'm gonna give that to the ankle injury, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But that second quarter, that second game, excuse me, he came to play. I think Minnesota just has to make some adjustments on the defensive side of the ball to try to slow Shea down because you're not going to stop his scoring. He's going to give you 30 or 20 or over 25 in this series the whole time through, but you've got to contain him and stop the other guys because there's nights Chet Holmgren does not show up. If you can stop Chet and stop some of the other guys and maybe let Caruso be the second scorer of the night, I think you got a better shot at winning when you're Minnesota. But it is going to come down to Gobert and Randall in game three. But I think we're all finished up there with Minnesota and Oklahoma City. So we will move on to the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Game one just concluded last night. Darrell obviously is a Pacers fan. So is Darrin as well. He's also a Dolphins fan, which when we first discussed that on the pod last summer, I was a little shocked because I had never knew this until I found out last summer, but he's also a Pacers fan. So I'm gonna let you guys have the floor. Obviously, I'm still a Pacers fan, but I also am a Lakers fan as well. But I'm gonna let you guys have the floor, and we're gonna kind of talk about game one. I want to know your guys' thoughts, and then I'll give my thoughts as well because I caught the whole fourth quarter and overtime. I had work yesterday, so I caught that and then kind of kept up with the first three quarters while I was at work. So, fellas, go ahead and give your thoughts on game one.
Darren, you want to go first?
No, you can go first. Yeah.
So what I saw, the Pacers obviously started off high. I think they hit their first 9 shots, right? Clearly, Keyshawn Johnson has no idea what the hell he's talking about when it comes to the Pacers and Knicks. When he spoke on that lame show they've got, which is a talking head show, and someone asked, "Do you think the Pacers are going to be rattled going to the Garden?" And he said 100%. And the reason why I saw it, someone sent it to me because they know I don't watch the talking head shows. This is the show you want to watch right here, Game Time. That's what you want to watch. So with that said, I really believe, and I felt at the time, the Pacers, they won Game 7 last year. You can say injuries, you can say all these things you want, but they won the game. There's no style points. Either you win or you lose. And when I said that, I also said that the Pacers' exact team is coming back. There's no changes. There's no guys have been segmented to the bench who were playing last year. They're not. They're the same team. However, that team has gotten better year over the year. So was I surprised that they came out strong? No, not at all. Was I surprised they came back from 17 down? Yes, I was. I was shocked. But it didn't surprise me from the perspective of they didn't quit. The Pacers are not a quitting team, right? So they're going to continue to pressure until they can't. They went 10 guys deep on Wednesday night. They really can go 11, and there's not a crazy drop-off because that 11 guy is Jarris Walker, who was a 6th pick 2 years ago. So with that said, the Pacers have an opportunity to really put a lot of pain on the Knicks tonight in game two. The Knicks are going to come out fired up, ready to fight, real aggressive, doing a lot of talking like they were in game one. But how the Pacers handle that early on will be a big determiner how they play in that third and fourth quarter of meaningful minutes. That's what I believe in my view. But I do believe that it's going to be a close game tonight after all the dust settles with New York and their pressure. Then we're going to ease into the game and let's see what happens.
Darren, what you go next?
Yeah, just to preview on game one. I mean, the Pacers aren't like Kot said, they're not a quitting team, right? They're never getting given up, right? With that, I mean, I saw a team in game one that I felt like when I was watching the first probably the first three quarters, I kind of felt like, oh my goodness, this series kind of looks like how it was last year, right? But then once the Knicks got on to that, I think it was a 14-2 run, something like that, where they went up 18 or something like that in the fourth quarter. I was like, okay, the Knicks pulling away, right? That last 5 minutes of that game, obviously for obvious reasons, was crazy, right? But them last 5 minutes of that fourth quarter just shows what the Pacers are. You know what I mean? I won't say that they didn't have it last year, but I don't think that team last year was like that, right? I mean, they just keep the pressure on you. I mean, that's just what the Pacers going to do. They're going to keep the pressure on you. Uh, we saw the game. They put like 6 different guys on Brunson. They gave him some different looks. I mean, like I said, they're not going to give up. And I mean, just to preview off that, I mean, the Knicks. I think game 2 today, they're going to definitely try to come off firing. And another thing too, they shot really, really well. Pacers shot really, really well game 1.
Yeah, well, especially his first quarter, the first half, right?
First
they
first
kind of
quarter
cooled off a little bit.
I think they were 9 for 9. I think for the first.
I think it's off 9 for 9. I think they finished up about 52% from the field, right? Which you talk about a conference, championship game at 52%. I'll take my chances, but heck, New York, I think it was either at 50 or 51%. Do the Pacers keep Robinson off the boards tonight? What do you do with Robinson? Because I would imagine he's going to play a little bit more tonight. And when he's in the game, if you look at off the ball, don't just watch the ball. Look at off the ball. When the Knicks are on offense, he's carving out area to get that rebound. They're not looking at him to get the ball in him to be offensive. There's 4 on 5, but he's in that lane on each side of that lane, carving out territory for that offensive rebound. Pay attention to that tonight. That's one of my keys to the game tonight.
I think what makes it hard too is since almost everybody on the Pacers can shoot. I think when Robinson is in, the Pacers, they're trying to space it out so he's not sitting in the paint. The paint's wide open, right? Because he has to respect that guy that he's guarding, whoever it is, either Turner, Obi, or Pascal, for that 3. So that's another thing that I've seen that Rick, shout out to Rick. He definitely I seen him do that in
he
overtime.
Coached him up, didn't he? He coached him up, yeah.
Yeah, I seen that in overtime, him doing that. So that was good by him. But like I said, I mean, can the Pacers maintain the offensive rebound? I think I talked to you about that in the Cavs series, which it was a problem. Obviously, it wasn't as big as a problem because they ended up winning 4-1. But let's try to minimize, the Knicks getting offensive rebounds. I
think the big thing, and it was talked about in the Milwaukee series, and it was talked about a little bit in the Cleveland series, but I think the Milwaukee series, it was the more eye-opening one, is the Pacers have to utilize that high screen as much as they were in the first 2 rounds, because that's where they got their buckets inside the paint when they did that high screen with Halliburton. If you have Halliburton do that high screen and say Robinson's on Turner, they're usually most of the time, when you watch the Pacers, the defense will usually switch. But I think that's where New York's going to have to do a good job at. I think I talked about it in the preview for this series is when you're New York, Indiana is looking to make that mismatch. They're always looking for that mismatch, or they're trying to find an open shooter. Those are the 2 ways they're generating their offense. So when you're Indiana, it's going to be about, can you get that switch? And drawing Robinson out of the paint? Because that's your best go. Have Turner come up, do that high screen, and then, at some points, Halliburton will kick it behind his back to Turner at the top of the key for the 3. And I think that's another thing, Darrell. You made the point a couple episodes ago. Watch Miles Turner in the first 5 to 6 minutes. If he's got high energy, high octane, the Pacers are going to be in a good situation.
His head up.
His head up. My other point in this game is going to be Pascal Siakam. Now, Siakam didn't have a bad game, but I wouldn't say it was great either. He had 17 points. He had a positive plus-minus, but it wasn't.
Was that mostly in the second half? Those points?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't Pascal Siakam's best night. I think I'm not going to say he was intimidated, but it wasn't the aggressive Pascal Siakam that we're known to seeing, getting to his spot, creating his shots. He looked a little flushed at times in game one. I want to see him be more aggressive because I think there was a lot of game one where he was guarding Cat, and I got to give credit to Karl Anthony Towns. I said it before the series. I said Cat is going to be the biggest problem in this series, not Jalen Brunson. It's going to be Karl Anthony Towns. And he had 35 and 12. Cat is a top 5 center. I love the way Cat plays. Siakam is going to have to be more aggressive. Obviously, Nesmith helped the Pacers a lot by putting up 30, but I love Aaron Nesmith. Nesmith isn't going to give you 30 or more than 25 every night. Siakam's got to be there to play well. I mean, Nembhard had 15, Turner had 14, but Pascal Siakam has to get in his rhythm like he was in the first 2 rounds for this Pacers team to contend in game 2 and the rest of the series.
Yeah, so you won't need that, right, to your point. But I'm going to tell you this, and Darren, you and I talked about this too. I love the fact that Cat and Brunson scored almost 80 points. I want them to be closer to 90 points tonight because that's going to mean the other guys aren't getting involved. And remember, they're only going 7 or 8 deep anyway. So if they're going to score between 80 and 90 points, those guys aren't getting touches and they're not engaged and they're not going to be engaged from a perspective of going back on defense if they're not getting those looks, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, OG and Hart have to get 20 shots apiece, but if those 2 guys, and I'm talking about Brunson and Cat, are in that 80 range, as a Pacer fan, I love that because that means that ball isn't going anywhere else but those 2. And Brunson's going to pound it because the Pacers are putting that pressure on. When he crosses that line, it's about 17 seconds to go. I monitored it. 17 seconds to go, and then 16 for you to get into your offense. So I'm telling you, that creates challenges as well, and that's why they've gone to Brunson and also Cat because they're the shot makers, right? If you think about it, and that starting 5, those are 2 shot makers. That's what I'm hoping for tonight in tonight's game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how tonight goes. I have the Pacers winning in 6 as a whole. I said that, I believe, before the series even got started. I said the Pacers can win this in 6, which means they had to win one in New York. Now, I was very iffy on if they'd win one in New York. In New York, I mean, it's just grungy. Like, it's a tough place to play.
Musty.
But
I just say the word musty.
Well, I said grungy to switch it up there. But it's going to be tough. Game 2 is going to be tough. In New York, it's going to be tough, but it's going to be tough for New York coming to Indiana. I said it before the series on the episode before this. I said Indiana's got a good crowd. New York's got a good crowd. These crowds are here to play. Same thing on the other side. Oklahoma City, they're always repping the T-shirts that the team leaves out there. Minnesota's going to be the same way. We've got some great crowds on both sides for these series. Tonight's going to be rough. I'm going to say New York wins game 2 tonight, but that's just me playing it safe. Indiana obviously took both out of Cleveland, and Cleveland was a good crowd as well, but this is New York. So I'll give New York crowd its due. I'll give it its props. I could see Indiana winning tonight, but I also kind of have a feeling tonight New York may punch Indiana in the mouth because there was a game in Cleveland where Cleveland just kind of punched Indiana, and then the series ended in 5 games. So I could expect to see Indiana drop one of these games tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised, but I could see Indiana winning in 5, but at the worst case scenario, 6.
Yeah, I think they got to win in 6, right? Because you won in 7 last year in the Garden. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy theory, but going in game 7 in New York, back-to-back years, man, I don't want to leave it to chance.
That's a weird fit. Yeah. Darren, we've got about 9 minutes left in the segment. What are your final thoughts? What are you thinking about this series going down the road?
I got the Pacers in 6 as well. I would say too, I mean, it's best they better get it in 6 because going to game 7 back in New York is going to be just a challenge. It's going to be challenging. Today's game, I can see a world where honestly the Knicks do punch Indiana in the mouth and honestly blow them out. But I can also see the Pacers also actually playing it close and end up winning again. I can see it.
106, 102, right? 106 something. You can see it could go either way, right?
Yeah.
I think we agree. We don't think the Pacers will blow them out, right?
I think it comes out on the attitude of the Knicks. How are they? Are they feeling defeated? Are they feeling like, man, what just happened? Or are they coming out like, hey, we got this? I think it kind of depends on. I think it's more dependent on how the Knicks are doing, not what the Pacers, are or aren't doing. So yeah. So I do have the Pacers in 6. I think the Knicks actually will win Game 2 tonight, though. But like I said, when they come back home, though, that Game 3, Game 4 for the Pacers,
It'll be crucial.
It'll be crucial, and I know Indiana's they're gonna be coming firing too. That crowd's gonna be loud.
Game 3 will be not only the Eastern Conference Finals, but the Indy 500 as well. Game 3, I mean, you almost could write it in. It'll be a win for Indiana. I mean, it's just going to be a loud day in Indiana that day. So I think Game 3 is a lock for Indiana if they don't win Game 2.
I think if you remember, Darren, I think we went to a couple of playoff games on Memorial Day in the past, haven't we? I think that Heat series. I think if I remember right.
I think I remember going to the. I think I remember when. No. It was game. It was Game 6. Remember when Paul George was playing against the Heat, and this is when Indy had home advantage.
Okay.
And I think it was Game 5 where it was kind of crazy. They were down by they were up, and the Heat looked like they were coming back. And I think the series, at this point, it was like 3-1 Miami. And I remember PG was hitting. He had a big shot at the end or something like that. But they ended up winning that game. I remember.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Rockets crowd definitely on Sunday. And like you said, you got the race out there starting at 11. I think the game is at, if I remember right, the game is at 8 p.m. on Sunday. So the race will be over well in enough advance. Yep. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I did want to give a shout out to you, Darren. You gotta represent what you're doing. Tell everybody what you're doing and where you at while you're not here in Indy.
Hey, hey, man, look, you gotta represent, man. Listen, I'm in Virginia right now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm repping Indy all the way from in Fort Gregg. So
there you go.
So I'm sure repping Indy. Hey, everybody, and all the people I was talking to here, they keep thinking, and it's crazy to me too, because there's a lot of people that don't know about the Pacers.
No,
they just think the Pacers are just a whole randoms and Tyrese Halliburton.
And Darrell, I told you this. The only fan base that has given the Pacers credit is Celtics fans at this point. But I'm starting to see on Twitter, Bucks fans are coming around too. They're like, you know what? I'm gonna ride with the Pacers for this series. But I think that's because everybody on the East now does not want to see New York go to the finals. So I think that's why everyone's starting to come around on Indiana.
Hey, they've already celebrated. They've already won the title. Just look at that. Look at the online look.
I know.
Twitter to X to Instagram. They've already celebrated. They've already won the title. Just ask them.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun one. So we have recapped both series. Before we go, I do want to give my condolences, though, to the Irsay family. Obviously, we all live in Indiana, the three of us, so I do want to give my condolences there to Jim Irsay and the Irsay family and the whole Colts organization. Definitely some shocking news that happened a couple days ago, so everyone here at the Game Time Podcast want to send our condolences over there. Not to bring down a somber mood, but
no, that's okay.
Wanted to bring that up, especially since, we live in Indiana, stuff like that. Definitely wanted to say that for sure.
He's impacted a lot of people. I've got a lot of people that are in security and ushers at Banker's Life and also at Lucas. And they, spoke about how highly and appreciative he is for regular people. And he was for regular people. So shout out to Jim Irsay. Yeah, he had his demons. However, but from a personal perspective, he treated people, the janitor like he treated the security person, like he treated the CEO. Yep. So kudos to Jim Irsay and the Indianapolis Colts family. And definitely our best wishes to the family of the Irsay family and the Colts family, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, it was some crazy news. I was at work when the news dropped. So once again, condolences to the Irsay family and the whole Colts organization. But fellas, that is going to do it. This will be going up the same day we recorded it. This little Game Time Extra is what I'm going to call it on YouTube. Darren, thank you for having us. A little From the Logo reunion. And I just got to say, I told Darren a couple weeks ago, I was like, From the Logo was definitely the blueprint to what this podcast became, because we were uploading that podcast in full but I think breaking everything up into segments has really worked out for the Game Time podcast. You'll be seeing Darren very, very soon, but we also got some guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. But that is going to do it, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys for more content right here on the Game Time Pod.